Hey folks, this is a video to kind of help you get started on this uh, last file, this last project here, the Access Database Import project. This is kind of the culminating project for the Access section, but the file that we're going to produce here, the database that we're going to produce with the multiple tables in it, is going to be the one that we use for our next database, and that's the MySQL. So we're using this as a springboard, and it's going to be important for you to be able to understand how to get the data in here and organized the way Casey has it organized. We're going to do some other things with this, but you have to start somewhere. And usually with data, people already have things organized certain ways, and that's just the place that you start. It might not be perfect, it might not be wrong, it might not be, it's just the data. So that's how we start, and it's certainly not the only way to start, but in this case, you got to kind of trust me a little bit. Once you try this method, you'll probably find other ways to do this. But if you don't know how to use Access and you don't know how to use Excel, it will take a little bit of work for you. Most of you have taken all these other classes with me. You have the basic skills. So this project's going to make you think a little bit here. Okay, so let's just kind of get started. So let's go to the Access Database Import project. And first step in the assignment, go download the Excel file. So the Excel file's out here in the Google Drive setup. Here's the file. Now, this is not going to be very helpful. You could copy and paste, but what a nightmare. So I would recommend coming over, downloading this. I'm using Google Chrome right now. I'll download the file. I'll just call it I'll just leave it like it is. Maybe what I'll do is I'll create a folder for this particular project, and yeah, I'll put it in my Access data files, and I'm going to call this the Access Import Project 2019. And I'm going to put that Excel file in here. So again, this is Excel. So if this is not Google Sheets, it's downloading as Excel, and I want that because Access works nicely with Excel. They're made by the same company, they understand each other. All right, so let's go back to our project here. So you've got a few different things. Once you've downloaded the data file onto your computer, there's going to be various sheets. So remember, there should be 13 sheets or so. And if we go open this guy up, let's just go open it up. Somewhere. Okay, there's the morning bean. We don't really want that. We don't want this morning bean either. We'll get rid of that. And not sure why all these morning beans are open. Sorry about that. Let's get rid of that. We'll go back and we'll open this guy up. Okay, Access. Project. Master driver. So here's our spreadsheet, and enable the editing. One of the first things that you're going to notice here is down at the bottom you've got a bunch of sheets. Okay, these are all sheets. This is all one workbook, but these are all the sheets. You'll also notice that there's more that are here as well. So you got to use the little arrow to see all the different sheets here. Probably want to go look at the data just to make sure you know roughly what it looks like. And it looks like it's all somewhat cryptic, which is fine. You don't need to know the details at this point. We're just looking for, here's the row names, and then here's the column names. So in this particular situation, when you use Excel, typically people flip these and they put the actual field names at the top, and then on the left-hand side, you've got these row numbers over here. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, and sometimes these Excel files don't do a very good job of organizing it like a database would. It's neither here nor there. So they're just different formats. So what we want to do is we want to go to Excel or Access, and we're going to find our Access, and there's Access, and we're going to choose a new blank database, and I'm going to call this matrix import, whatever. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to choose where to put it, and I got a little shortcut over here to my Access, import project, matrix import, okay, and then choose create. So I've got a blank database now. You have some of these skills to be able to get the Excel file into this database. We're going to do that via tables. So each worksheet, okay, so each worksheet down here at the bottom is going to become a table in our Access database. Okay, so again, there's a whole bunch of these things here. We're going to do them one at a time. So let's go to the external data, and under export external data, we've got import and we've got export, and see if I'm in the right place here. So I'm going to choose from a file, Excel. Yours could look a little bit different, but it's going to be under external data, and it might actually just be, it will show up just as Excel over here. So my version could be slightly different than yours. So from a file, Excel, we're going to go choose that file, so we got to go find it. And most of you have already gotten to this point, so feel free to skip ahead if you've already gotten to here. We want to find this Excel file, and we want to import the source data into a new table. Now, folks generally just want to click OK and get it all over with, but you should look at this preview, okay? So this is not working properly because we should be seeing all of the worksheets, but that's not happening very well here. It could be the way the names of the workbook or the worksheets are made with the dots in them. It could be that there's so many of them. It doesn't really matter though, because we'll go through this. Stick with me here. There's no options to choose anything here. It's just giving you a little bit of a preview. If I choose next, the first row does contain column headings, so that's going to become the name of your fields. So each one of those would correspond to the name of the field that's going to get created in your database. So one of the things to keep in mind here is that you really don't want to have spaces in your names. And Access might tolerate this, but if we're going to take this to a different platform like MySQL or SQL Server or Oracle or you name it, Maria, doesn't really matter. We need to get rid of these spaces and to make sure that we've got a proper data type. So in this situation here, most of you are not going through each one of these fields. You can do this later if you want to. Okay, that'll work. But really what you're looking to do is you're trying to be consistent. If you just want to get it over with and fix it later, that's fine. Let's go back to this product type. This says that the data type is double. And what that means is it's a number field. You might keep it that way, or you might choose something else, like text, short text, something like that. I'm just going to leave it like it is for now, but I'm going to keep in mind that if there are other product types besides numbers, they won't work. Okay, so let's keep going here. I've got that fixed up. Got that fixed up. Hardware type, again, is a number. It's coming in as a double number. It's just a type of number. and this one has a space in it, so I'm going to fix that. Again, you can do this later, okay? I'm going to do a few of them like that, and you can see that there's an ID number here. We're going to change the other names here in a different step. Okay, so here's all the names that are going to come through. You can still see that there's a bunch of blank spaces. We'll get that later. Let Access add the primary key. Okay, and there it is. They've given it to us, and this is fine. It's going to manage that automatically, and it's going to give them all a number that will be controlled by Access. We want that. That's pretty standard. And this is asking us what we want this table to be called. Okay, and import to table. Let's go back here because we don't really know what this is. I'm going to call this 5_54_014. And the reason I'm not using the dots is I think that they're causing us trouble. Dots are sometimes reserved words, and spaces are sometimes problematic too. So underscores are typically a safe way to go. Dashes can mean things. In other words, they can indicate subtraction, so be careful with that. Underscore is usually pretty innocuous. So I'm going to choose that, choose finish, and I don't need to save the import steps. We're just testing this stuff anyway. So there's my new table here, and I still have this table 1 up here that I'm not really going to use. In fact, I'll just get rid of this now. We'll close that. So I've got one table, 5_54_014. I don't really know what all that means, but this is my data. And if I counted the column names here, that is not going to add up to the number of columns here. And the reason is there's a bunch of hidden columns. So if you look right to the left of the O, H, so it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, O. Well, that's not right. So if I come over here and I click on this little triangle here, I get my cursor or my insertion point over one of the column headers, and I choose unhide, you'll see that all of those columns will show up. So you're much more able to check your work now. So if you go through there, you can compare each one back to from Access to Excel. Now we have some that don't have the proper field names in them. So if I right click on this and I go to Design View, I can get a pretty good list here of all of my field names with all of the really bad character names that are in here. We do not want to have pound signs in here. That's a nightmare waiting to happen. We also don't want to have the spaces. So I can go through here and I can make sure that everything is set. A slash in database world is a really bad thing because that means that it's a folder. It means create a folder, or it indicates to move a folder. An apostrophe is meaningful as well. So we'll leave all of those things. We'll get rid of the blank spaces, and I'm going to keep my case. I don't really know what MBs is, but I'm going to get rid of the blank spaces. 68K RNet. Don't really know what that is, but we're going to figure it out eventually. So let's go back up. Make sure we've got all the rest of these. So this might be an easier way to get rid of these spaces in these field names and to keep your special characters out of the way. Modbus /IP no dice. You could do this if you wanted to. I'm just going to leave it out completely at this point, and we'll decide what to do later. IPD support. You might not get all of this in the very beginning, but this is really important that you be consistent with how you're naming things. And it looks like I have most of the other ones set up here. So we're pretty good. Now one of the things that you see here is I've got all my field names relatively well done, but the data types might not actually be correct. The ID is our primary key, and you could see that there's that key that's listed there, and it shows primary key. If I undo that, now it's not the primary key. Now it is, and you can see that little key right there. We want that to be auto number because we don't want to have to manage this. This is not a user configurable field. We're setting it up, but it's for our purposes to keep the uniqueness within this table. And it will also help us with our reaching out to other tables. We've got our driver name, short text, product type, which is set up as a number, short text, blah, 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 blah. Now, part of my instructions might be a little bit confusing because all of these things are listed as short text, except for when we imported it, these two fields became numbers. The only reason they became numbers is because there were only numbers in those fields. Now, we do not know for sure if that's true. So it's possible that there'll always be numbers in those fields. It's possible that they won't be. So I would recommend just leaving it as it is, and let's just kind of roll with it until we can learn more about the information that we have. You can see that there's a bunch of other things that we could do to change this, but we really don't want to do that at this point. It's really not worth the effort because we don't have enough information. And secondly, this isn't really the target. We're getting it into Access so we can do a prototype. We're doing the prototype so that we can take this information and ultimately move it to a different database. It's really important that you keep your data and your tables, fields, everything as vanilla as possible. Okay? That's really critical. So don't get creative. You don't need to do a lot of other work here. You're going to simply interpret the data. So in other words, the 5.54.014, I interpreted it and made it underscores. I removed those special characters. You know what special characters look like. They're not letters and they're not numbers. I'm just looking through my stuff just to make sure. Looks like I did okay. I did not change any of these to yes/no fields. And the reason why I did not do that is that's really not a standard sort of approach. You can go into, you could do this yourself actually. ANSI, SQL, standard, you could type something like that. And you can come in here and you can figure out like what is standard and what is not. And YesNo fields are generally not standard, and it's not going to list it there. But they'll give you all the, if you go to the list of standardizations, don't do this because it's way more involved than the level that you're all working at this point. But YesNo is not normal. Auto number is normal. Short text is normal. Number is normal. Anything else is you're not going to know. So these are pretty safe choices the way they are right now. So I'd avoid the yes/no. There is really good reason why Microsoft offers this as an option. And a lot of the options that they give you, they put you into jail. And that's not so good for you. So whenever you're stuck and then you can't leave one particular system, I call that jail. So right now what we've done is we've created one table over here that is not in jail. So we haven't stepped into any very proprietary Microsoft sorts of things. Everything here is pretty straightforward, normal, and I think we're going to be good just by leaving it like that. Now, here's the issue, and I'm going to leave you with this one. If I go back, let me save this because I've created some structures here. I want to go back to the external data and choose my Excel file. And there's my, make sure I'm in the right spot here. Okay, so here's my master driver matrix. Import the source data into the current database. Now the problem is, well, I've already imported this one. So what I'd recommend is, let's cancel this. And you could create 13 different Excel spreadsheets. You could do this. You could delete this sheet and then save things here and then go back to Access and new data source from a file, Excel. Yep, that's right. I think that's right. Okay, import into a new table. And then here's our new table here, or our new worksheet. So this one's going to be different than the other one, hopefully, because we deleted that first worksheet. And so typically it's going to import that first worksheet. Okay. All right. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to tell you. I think this should help you to get started. You're not going to be able to know all the details at this point, and it's not really necessary. You need to get the data into a database, and then Casey is going to give us more information for us to work with and answer some of your questions on Wednesday. And that'll give you maybe slightly better idea about direction here. Okie dokie. Thanks a lot, and let me know if you have questions.